Well, good evening and welcome to the statutory public meeting for our official plan. It is 6 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. I will remind council members of any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Might mention also that the deputy mayor is with us online this evening, and Councillor Chilcott is absent with notice. The purpose of this public meeting is to present the final draft of the new official plan. Presentation will be made by the consultant team, Arcadis, to review the key themes of the new official plan and the changes since the December 2024 draft official plan based on the approved County of Elgin official plan and input received, including from the open houses that took place in June of 2024 and January of 2025. The current BAM official plan was approved in February 2019, and municipalities are required under Section 26 of the Planning Act to conduct an official plan review every 5 years to ensure that the official plan is consistent with the provincial policy statement, has regard to matters of provincial interest, and conforms with the County of Elgin official plan. The purpose of the official plan review is to ensure that policies of the official plan are in conformity with provincial and county plans and policies and continue to meet the community's vision for future change and development. The official plan review is municipal-wide initiative affecting all lands within the jurisdiction of the municipality of Bayham. This evening, we are joined by our consultant, Jeff Henry of Arcadis, regarding the Phase 4 final draft official plan review. And at this time, I would invite you, Jeff, to take the helm and lead us through a presentation.
Sure, will do. I'm just going to get the show started. And making sure that you can see my screen. There we go. Did that just stop? Screen 2. That's the one we want. Can you see the presentation screen? Because that's what should be showing.
All we see is you, Jeff.
Let me see. How's that look? Let me figure out. Now this puts me on it. Content only. That's the one I wanted. I've done this through other means, but not through Teams, and yet still not showing what I wanted it to. It is frustrating when the technology isn't working. So I don't know what it is that's keeping you from seeing the screen I've indicated I'm sharing. So it should only be the presentation at this point. But try this one more time. I wonder maybe if the clerk has it and can share it from there, and I can just ask it to be advanced, because I'm clearly having trouble getting this up in a way that you can see. Does that give it to you?
Yes. There. You got it.
Ah, excellent. I apparently had to double click a button that made no sense for me to double click, but there it is. So good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the public. As noted, my name is Jeff Henry. I'm from Arcadis, here to present Phase 4 of your official plan conformity review. I'd echo the comments of the Mayor that this is a conformity review. This wasn't a comprehensive policy review, so we haven't dug in and said, are all of the policies in the existing official plan still the ones we want? Do we want to change them? This is being done as a conformity exercise to make sure that we're in conformity with the policies above BAM, and we'll get into that. So the presentation outlined today, I'll review the planning hierarchy. I'll look at the process of this review, the public consultation and engagement we've done and received. As noted, the changes since the first draft back in December 2024. Also, some changes since we released this final draft at the end of January. I will need to call the one that comes before you later the final draft. So maybe this is now the penultimate draft. Nothing ever seems to be final until it's final. And then we'll look at next steps and then take your questions. I have also, since you've been circulated a draft of this presentation with your package, I've highlighted changes since then in what's in your package in my deck today, just for ease of reference. So again, on the planning hierarchy, the province of Ontario is governed by a multi-layer cake of policy, and the details of how and where you grow, the impacts on natural heritage features and cultural heritage, and all the different elements that make up a community get more and more specific the farther down the cake you go. We start at the provincial level, go through the county level, and then we're here at the BAM official plan level. After this official plan is adopted by council, we'll also start reviewing and updating the zoning bylaw. We'll be back before you with that, and I'll say more about that later. So the process for the BAM official plan review, you've seen this slide before, but now we're further to the right. We're in phase 4 now. We had paused after phase 3, which had been released in December 2024 until the county's official plan was approved by the minister, which took place this past September. And then we've been working as quickly as we can to get back before you today with this phase 4 final draft. In terms of public consultation and engagement to date, since the initiation of the project, as the mayor mentioned, we've held 2 open houses. There have also been 3 special council meetings, including today. We've had 21, now 22 inquiries as of end of day yesterday via email or written submission. And we've held 3 one-on-one meetings, 1 in the last week, to take that number up. And those are the dates of when we released the first draft and now the final draft official plan. In terms of the key themes that we've received from the consultation and engagement to date, settlement areas, can I add or remove land from a settlement area? Enhancing and improving the on-farm diversified and agriculture-related use policies, given changes in provincial policy and guidance. How we protect agricultural and natural heritage lands, Indigenous engagement, the impacts from the new provincial planning statement, which landed in the middle of our process, and overall questions about the process, about the official plan review project as well. In terms of the changes since the December 2024 draft, we made and released in our final draft 38 modifications. Sounds like a big number. I'd categorize them this way. 6 of those were just to align with the changes the minister made to the county's official plan. So we had to do those. 3 of them were related to official plan amendments that this council had approved since we started the project. So we had to include those. 12 of them were related to policy changes or clarifications to policy. I'll go through those in some more detail. 2 of them were to reflect the fact that the Conservation Authority recently updated their regulation limit changes. That happened in December of 2025. 2 of them were modifications, minor settlement area boundary adjustments, and I'll show those. And 13 of those were technical corrections, typos, drawing errors, the stuff you find whenever you look at a document for the 15th time and that you've missed the first 14 times. So looking at those 12 policy modifications and clarifications. First, we clarified the farm labor accommodations policies being about how much total cumulative area there are for such dwellings. This has been how we've been approving official plan policies, but we needed to specify that more clearly. We removed some historical permissions that had allowed new residential units in agricultural areas. When I dug in, that was a vestige of the 2002 official plan. So it predated the current wording of these pieces, and it had long needed to go. We removed historical permissions permitting new estate residential lots, and I worked with Margaret so that we could precisely map and establish all of those things that had previously been allowed and actually implemented that allow folks to maintain those permissions going forward and have clarity about them. Same thing for the mobile home parks and seasonal travel trailer parks, where we found that we need to be a bit more precise so that we could clarify exactly what was permitted in winter. We also, at the request of Southwest Public Health, added that the impacts of climate change do also include impacts on human health, not just on infrastructure and the like that was in the policies there. We agreed with them on that. We also added a new policy for garden suites. Council had been getting requests for these and approving them, but the existing policy framework pointed to an older section of the Planning Act. A new one was created just for these, so we referenced that one instead. And we added that the typical limit that council approves is 10 years, based on the fact that that's what you've been doing. Planning Act allows it to be up to 20. So the wording is somewhat flexible, but we're giving clear guidance on what council typically approves. So on the minor settlement area boundary adjustments, which occurred in Richmond and Corinth, through our first draft and in work with the county, we had noticed that there were discrepancies in the county's mapping of settlement areas where they didn't match the exact lot boundaries. So they jogged a little bit, they sliced through corners of properties. They were not precisely mapped on top of the lot fabric. And so we had worked with them through what the county adopted and through our first draft to precisely align those boundaries so they made sense. So you got an entire lot in rather than a part of a lot. And then the minister came along, and the minister didn't seem to notice that's why we'd made those adjustments and undid them. And so the approved county official plan reverts back to the official plan that had errors. Thankfully, the county official plan allows us to make minor adjustments without having to go back up to the minister. And we've talked to the county about them, and they're supportive of these changes, which is to correct those lot fabric pieces. To guide you through the maps on here, the purple is where everything agreed. The light pink is the changes we tried to make to fix things to align with lot boundaries. The black is the minister's errors that we tried to correct that didn't match lot boundaries. And so we are going back to the purple and light pink maps through us as minor adjustments. And the county had requested this one parcel in orange just between the light pink and the purple here, just so the line was straight. And so at their request, we made that. We didn't have any objections. So that's what the settlement area boundary adjustments look like in this plan. We're fixing stuff that the minister unfixed. Now, since we released this final draft official plan at the end of January, we've received comments. And so we've made some additional changes I wanted to highlight in a bit more detail to council today, since they aren't reflected in the documents that are online. The county made 10 comments in their review on our final draft official plan. Their letter and our response to it are in your package. So I won't go through this in too much detail, since you've seen that in the public documentation. But I would flag them as we had some typo errors or some discrepancy errors. So correcting the planning horizon. They wanted to make sure our policies were clear, that they're the only case where you can convert land's designated agricultural area is through a settlement area boundary expansion. Whereas we have a number of these historic, long-standing, non-agricultural uses in agricultural lands that have been designated. So we just tweaked the policies to clarify that those permissions are within those designated boundaries, that you can expand uses within those boundaries. And you can't go outside of those, which is consistent with the county and provincial policy. Now, in terms of new non-agricultural uses that may be permitted, they can now be permitted within the agricultural area without redesignation, as long as they match all of the criteria in the BAM policies, the county policies, and the provincial policies. These tend to be onerous, but for certain circumstances, you can do it. But they no longer need special designations. You end up getting special policy areas, special provision areas. The county wanted to make sure that we reference the MDS formula everywhere and anywhere. So we added it in several places at their suggestion. We already required this, but this way everybody knows that they're required for certain non-agricultural uses that you're creating in the agricultural area. They wanted to make sure that our plan clarified that farm labor accommodations are permitted in agricultural areas, subject to the criteria that we've always had. And we corrected some of the language. And we also clarified that site plan control is required when these are large scale, which has been a historic practice. There were a few instances where we suggested that the Conservation Authority had a role where the province has taken that role away. So we fixed that. Similar for the county mentioned that only the province and the federal government had a role with respect to fish habitat and the habitat of threatened or endangered species, not the county. So we removed them. They like to have one less reference to themselves. I think that was helpful. We also added Bayamone collector roads into the plan through a table and through a definition, and revised some language on road widening to match the county's language. In talking with Steve Adams, we made sure that Bayam will have the opportunity to collect through development applications to be able to get road widening dedications at no cost to the municipality where those are warranted. So we've tightened the language to enable you to have these abilities under the Planning Act. There were some gaps in the existing language. And they pointed out one area where we called something, where we needed to call something a development agreement rather than a site plan agreement. So again, some minor corrections in there as well. We also received comments from the Conservation Authority, 7 of those. They were made last week. Those are not in your package and neither is our response, I don't believe. They've happened in much more tight, rapid succession. So we proposed some modifications based on their comments. There was a redundant policy in the old official plan that we've removed. We've clarified at the LPCRA's request that their regulation authority with respect to wetlands and coastal wetlands is related to significant wetlands, not any wetlands. And so we've clarified their responsibilities to match what the province allows them to do. We've also clarified at their request that they may also have requirements for landowners, for developers to provide stormwater management plans to their satisfaction in certain circumstances. So not just BAM, but also the CA's satisfaction. And then the larger one in here relates to implementing the Big Otter Creek flood study from 2020. And this is a change and an update since we sent this on Friday that we've worked over the last few days on. So the existing official plan had included language to reflect the fact that Vienna was a 2-zone flood policy, where you had things in the floodway, which had high restrictions, and things in the flood fringe, which had fewer restrictions if you were able to flood-proof up to the flooding elevation. The new flood study that was done 6 years ago now by the CA only looked at a 1-zone policy, as is the case in the rest of BAM, not a 2-zone policy. And so they said that we needed to match them, and because it reflects what they will actually regulate and what is actually consistent with the provincial planning statement. And so we've revised the flood policies to remove the 2-zone in Vienna. We've maintained generally the floodway policies to allow minor extensions or enlargements to existing permitted buildings and structures, and to allow rebuilding after partial or total destruction, as long as it wasn't by flood. And these are consistent with the Conservation Authority's approach and regulatory authority, which governs in this area. Because our existing policies still deferred to the fact that the CA had to ultimately permit it. And so we just want to make sure that our policy framework is upfront and consistent with what will actually happen through the CA's regulated authority. Let me show you some maps just to give you a sense of what the changes look like. So on the left is a subset of the final draft map we gave you for Vienna. You see The hatched blue is the flood fringe, where you could do some things up to a floodproofing elevation. And the floodway in the dotted light blue, where generally you can't do things because that's the peak flood flow that happens through there. And we have overlaid in, I'm going to call that pink color salmon, since we're talking about water. Probably not in this creek, but it's water related, as what the new floodplain looks like. And so we've overlaid that on here because we wanted to take a look at where the changes might impact property owners inside Vienna and provide some clarity this evening on what the Conservation Authority's changes mean. So two areas are areas where there are greater impacts from the revised flood study that was done 6 years ago by the CA. And in the rest of Vienna, the impacts are less. In fact, perhaps better off rather than worse off if you consider better off to be being able to develop your property. So let me highlight two areas, section A over here and section B here, which I've blown up so it's easier to see. The property addressed as 88 Edison didn't used to be impacted by the floodway, but now most of it is in the floodplain. Like some buildings and structures are now in the floodplain on that didn't used to be. Section B, more into the heart of Vienna. 3 properties have more or slightly more impacts or a mixed bag than they did before. 4 Queen at the intersection here with Edison Drive. The floodplain now comes up more substantially into the banks, but based on our review, it appears that the primary dwelling here is outside. A survey is usually required to confirm all of these things with the CA, but it appears to be outside of the floodplain. 7 Queen, same thing. The property, the dwellings and structures are well inland from the creek and are outside of the floodplain. There's a slight increase in floodplain down near the intersection with Edison, but the flood fringe policies have now been removed over this. So in some parts of that property you can do more, and some you can do less. Same thing with 41 Edison. It's actually more to the good because the floodplain is only slightly further than the floodway previously, but the flood fringe disappears as a restriction here. And as I mentioned, in all of the other properties we're looking at along the creek, things are either as they were before or slightly better in terms of reduced flood impacts. So that's what we could assess over the last few days after being updated by the Conservation Authority about the policy changes we needed to make to reflect how they regulate these lands under their provincially granted authority in hazard lands and floodplains. And one final set of changes, we received an inquiry from the owners of the agents for the Meadows Mobile Home Park. They had noted that the existing mobile home park was larger than what was reflected in the official plan. It had expanded since that language was there, and we noticed that the mapped area was much smaller than what is permitted as a right in the zoning bylaw. And so we're proposing to effectively correct that discrepancy, taking what you see on the left to what you see in the middle to reflect what you see on the right, which is in the zoning bylaw, so that it lines up and makes some sense and is aligned. And we've updated the size of the existing mobile home park in the policy language to reflect the approved site plan, while maintaining the cap, the overall cap of how much lands could be designated mobile home park as to what exists today. So just trying to clean things up. I know that's something Margaret and I have talked a lot about, trying to make sure things are as cleaned up as they possibly can be and aligned with where things are. So what are the next steps? We will review comments that we continue to receive on the final draft official plan, including any from today. We will make any further revisions that are applicable. And then we will, in April, consultation with Thomas, come forward with a new official plan for you to adopt. We'll make sure that that's available before it comes to council so that council and the public can see it. Then after you adopt it, the county will have an opportunity to review and either approve the official plan or approve it with modifications. They tell us that that will happen within 2 to 3 months. And then we will take whatever those modifications may be, incorporate them, and publish the final official plan online. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be back to you in May to launch the comprehensive zoning bylaw review, which will bring the zoning bylaw up into conformity with the new official plan and modernize it somewhat, given it is from 2003 and we just basically continued to pencil over it. So it does need a refresh. So we'll come back with you to launch that project after this one is being put to bed. So with that, I'm ready for your questions and look forward to hearing from council.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff, for that presentation. Does anyone from council have any questions? Deputy Mayor, we don't see you. If you have any questions, you'll have to speak up. I'm seeing none. Jeff, you have some correspondence or something you want to take us through, or are you done for today?
I could be done unless anything that you have that arises gives rise to more questions. So I'll stay on.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Then we will move into the public participation phase. And anyone wants to make a presentation, please come forward to the podium. If you haven't signed in, please do. And then as per our delegation's policy, you'll have 10 minutes.
Hi, Suzanne and Schlotzauer. I've got two questions and I'm going to try to do both under 10, but I think both are important. And want to take the opportunity to look at both. So my first concerns sort of arise out of trying to put development policies together and not seeing matches with the provincial policy. Looking at climate change and the impacts of that, future and long-term monitoring. So I'm looking at service capacity, groundwater protection, and growth allocation. And I have given a more detailed version to the planner and staff and council, should they want to look at it. But I'm just going to do a brief what my thoughts are regarding the existing RAP plan. So let's start.
Excuse me, Suzanne, can you speak into the microphone, please?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Is that better? Better?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. So specific policy area 15, it applies to both tier 1 and tier 2 settlement areas. And to me, that created a fundamental policy tension because Stratfordville and Vienna have very different servicing expectations. And Stratfordville has no municipal water anywhere within its boundary, and it's entirely dependent on private wells, whereas Vienna, by contrast, is a tier 1 settlement area, and by mere nature of that definition is expected to accommodate growth on full municipal services. We do know that north of Otter Creek is all unserviced now, and there is some difficulty in that I understand to get municipal services to that area. So if the specific policy area requires only a servicing study demonstrating the available capacity of existing full or partial systems, it doesn't define how capacity is measured, and it doesn't require the municipality to track or allocate capacity transparently. And it doesn't distinguish between tier 1 and tier 2 servicing expectations. As written, the SBA appears to allow development on partial services, including private wells, within Vienna's tier 1 boundary, particularly on the large unserviced lands north of Otter Creek. I don't know if that's with the intention, but that's how I read it. You can take a look at that, and if further definition or clarity on the language. If that, but if that interpretation is correct, it represents obviously a significant departure from the servicing hierarchy in the draft OP, the county official plan, and the provincial planning statement, all of which prioritize full municipal servicing in tier 1 areas. The groundwater policies under section 5.12 are strong in principle, but they're discretionary in practice, and that's concerning to me. Section 5.12.2 states that the need for hydrological studies and cumulative groundwater impact assessments, quote, will be determined by the approval authority. I'm not sure how that will work. Section 11.5 lists these studies as items that may be required, not that they shall be required. And SB 15 does not reference section 5.12 at all. And while section 6.4.4 speaks to a municipal level monitoring program, it's not tied to development approvals. It doesn't require developers to fund monitoring, and it doesn't require cumulative impact evaluation. When these sections are read together, groundwater studies are optional, cumulative impact assessments are optional, and monitoring is not secured through development approvals. I don't think this meets the county OP requirements to ensure long-term groundwater sustainability, particularly in areas dependent on private wells. There's also a financial dimension to this. It's affordability. Our existing municipal water system currently serves about 880 users. If there's major growth in areas proceed on private wells rather than connecting to municipal water, the number of users remains static while infrastructure costs continue to rise. I don't know, people in Ward 1, Vienna and Port Burwell probably paid their first water bill under the new rates, and probably their jaws dropped. And that's just the beginning. We're expecting large increases annually over the next 10 years. So if the number of users remains rather static while infrastructure costs continue to rise, that shifts a long-term financial burden onto existing ratepayers and undermines the sustainability of the municipal water system. And because development on partial services isn't tied, the long-term monitoring isn't seem to be tied to development. I'm wondering, under climate change and development pressures, we need to be monitoring the viability of our municipal of our water supply to the well users. And I'm wondering where that cost, how that's going to be funded, because if it's not put onto the developer or onto the communities or onto the subdivisions that are in there, it goes on to the taxpayer. And so my concern is it is the intent of council to charge people that are currently funding the municipal water system to also fund development on private wells, because they're paying for both systems, and we're already choked. So given these implications, I thought the plan needed a clear direction on 4 points on whether or not the SBA 15 permits development on partial services within Vienna's tier 1 boundary, whether hydrological and cumulative groundwater impact assessments are mandatory for development on private wells, and how the plan satisfies the county OP groundwater requirements, and how growth allocation supports the long-term financial sustainability of the municipal water system. Without these clarifications, I don't think the plan was defensible or sustainable framework for servicing groundwater protection or long-term infrastructure plan. On that.
Okay, can I stop for just a minute?
Yeah.
Jeff, you've noted those comments, and I think that correspondence has been circulated to you as well.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I would assume the plan is to provide some comment back in the future here, or even consideration for adoption or something?
Yeah, certainly you have before you today a log of comments and responses up until a certain point. And we received the comments that being referred to, I believe they came in late yesterday, so I saw them first thing this morning. And so we have not yet had an opportunity to provide to formulate and provide a response to those, and we will.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Suzanne, second.
Okay, so then I am going to come to our tourism policy commentary. I was disappointed in the way the draft official plan treated tourism, since tourism is a initiative both in the Elgin County Plan, and it says it's a priority feature in the Bayham official plan. However, there's really only policies within the agricultural areas in the rural settlement and nothing in the settlement area, just brief. So I'll just read my commentary. My comments relate to the treatment of tourism within the draft official plan, particularly as it concerns to the settlement area framework and waterfront planning. The County of Elgin official plan identifies tourism as the strategic economic priority for the region, and lakeshore communities are recognized as central to the county's economic vitality and cultural identity. Bayham's draft plan echoes this in section 9.1.1, stating that tourism growth is a strategic priority and that tourism uses will be supported. That alignment is welcome. However, beyond this general statement, the plan does not meaningfully operationalize tourism within its land use structure, especially in Port Burwell, which is Bayham's primary waterfront destination and the municipality's most significant tourism asset. So other municipalities, such as Central Elgin, which I looked into deeply, as well as other areas, how does their official plan treat their tourism, their beach destination, harbor destination, fishing destinations, waterfront? So in Port Stanley, the waterfront is treated as a distinct planning focus. Harbor lands, beach areas, and tourism supported commercial uses are addressed through targeted policy language. Infrastructure planning explicitly recognizes the role of tourism in shaping transportation, parking, and the public realm priorities. In other words, tourism is not simply supported, it's planned for. In contrast, Bayham's draft plan disperses tourism policy across sections, with most of the substantive language appearing under rural area agritourism. Within the settlement area policies, references to tourism are limited and incidental. There's no waterfront tourism framework. Port Burwell is not identified as a tourism node within the settlement hierarchy. There's no policy structure addressing harbor lands, marine tourism, waterfront commercial intensification, visitor infrastructure, or tourism-oriented placemaking. Infrastructure policies do not identify tourism-supportive investment priorities. The result is a disconnect. Tourism is described as a strategic priority, but it's not embedded as a guiding principle within the settlement area framework. Instead, tourism support appears to be contingent on general policy interpretation and council discretion. A strategic priority should not depend on political will. It should be expressed through clear spatial policy, integrated infrastructure alignment, and explicit settlement area objectives. This gap is particularly notable given the municipality's recent implementation of permanent paid parking infrastructure in Port Burwell. That decision formally recognizes tourism as a revenue-generating function of the municipality. So tourism is no longer incidental. It's part of Bayham's fiscal strategy. And the official plan should reflect that reality. If tourism is truly a strategic priority, the plan should explicitly identify Port Burwell as a waterfront tourism node, establish a dedicated waterfront tourism policy framework, integrate tourism considerations into transportation and infrastructure planning, and provide policy support for destination-oriented commercial intensification within the Port Burwell settlement area. These elements would align the plan with both the county's regional tourism objectives and Bayham's own strategic direction, but also align with our strategic policy and our Port Burwell waterfront management plan that also identifies Port Burwell as a strategic area.
Okay, you got it? Okay, thank you. All right, in like manner, I expect Jeff will take those comments and respond accordingly.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
What do I think of that?
Yeah.
I'm looking for, again, as has been identified, this is a conforming exercise, not a, what was the wording? Comprehensive review of overall policies. So we're trying to conform with.
I know, but we've done it. we've done a complete rewrite of our existing. It appears we've done a complete rewrite of our existing, official plan policy, and yes, it would be conforming.
That's the intention of this time around. And I think the next go around, which is down the road, but still, we'll see what the planner comes back with comment on that. But thank you for bringing that forward. Anyone else from the public wish to make comment this evening? Okay. So as per the next steps ahead, we will be looking for perhaps revisions or something else bringing forward. We'll expect an official plan April.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So that would be that'd be the case. So any comments tonight compiled with the comments that Arcadis already has would be put into a final draft that would return to council in based upon the timeline provided 2 to 4 weeks time. So we ballpark that in April.
All right, okay. All right, how about a last call? Does anyone else wish to make any public comment at this time? All right, if not, then we will move it to an adjournment. We do have a few minutes, or we can adjourn, and we have a. Yes, I see that, thank you. And then we will move into a committee of adjustment at 6:50. So the motion would read that the presentation, correspondence, as well as public participation be received as information. And I need a mover and seconder. And I see Councillor Emerson and Councillor Froese will second. All in favor? Okay, and that is carried. Then that the council meeting be adjourned, this public meeting, I would like to call it, be adjourned at 6:42 PM. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Emerson. Deputy Mayor Rainey Weisler, Councillor Emerson. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We are adjourned. Beautiful. Good evening and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment for Thursday, March the 5th, 2026 is 6:50 PM, and I will call this meeting to order. I will remind the committee of any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none noted. This evening, we are dealing with well, first we're going to deal with the approval of the minutes. The minutes from the last Committee of Adjustment meeting was held on February the 19th. Everyone's had an opportunity to peruse those minutes. If there are no errors or omissions, I would certainly entertain a mover and seconder to approve them as presented. Moved by Committee Member Froese. And Committee Member Weisler will second. All in favor? It's carried. This evening's application, we are dealing with a minor variance application COA 0326 Van Dries at 6356 Plank Road. The purpose of this variance is to grant relief from the following zoning bylaw regulations for the addition of a second story to an existing residential dwelling located at 6356 Plank Road, east side, north of Chute Line in the Village of Vienna. Section 10.9.1 to permit a minimum side yard width of 1.2 meters on the north side and 0.9 meters on the south side for a two-story dwelling, where a garage or a carport is attached. 1.2 meter plus 0.5 meter for each additional or partial story above the first story on each side of the combined building is required. Section 10.4 to permit a minimum lot frontage of 12.8 meters with public water and sanitary services, whereas 15 meters is required. The effect of this variance is to permit an addition to an existing dwelling with an existing deficient lot frontage and one deficient side yard width, resulting in a two-story dwelling where both side yard widths are deficient in the Village Residential R1 zone. And at this point, we will have the staff presentation, report DS 0826 by Margaret Underhill, Secretary Treasurer, regarding minor variance COA 0326 Van Dries at 6356 Plank Road. Mark, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the committee. So the report before you from Matthew Van Dries is for a minor variance at their property, again, at 6356 Plank Road. I will point out in my report, I was directionally confused because in one paragraph I said west side, and the other paragraph I said east side. So it is, I will confirm that it's on the east side of Plank Road. Thank you very much for the mayor for pointing that out to me earlier today. So the purpose and the effect of the minor variance has already been stated. I won't repeat all of that. The Committee of Adjustment must be satisfied that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. The Planner's Memorandum, which is dated February the 24th, provides the planning analysis of the 4 tests to address the addition of a second story. And with that addition, yes, they are looking at reduced side yard setbacks, and we are going to recognize the minimum lot frontage that already exists.
Yar.
Yeah, it's yard setback. Thank you for that too.
Yeah, naval term.
The municipal planner and staff, we concur the application meets the criteria to grant relief from zoning bylaw sections 10.9.1 and 10.4, and we provide a supportive recommendation within the report. And I leave it with you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you very much for that report, Mark. Certainly appreciate it. The applicant, do you wish to make a presentation? Do you wish to say anything?
I don't think so. I think the application.
All right, thank you for that. Any public submissions?
There are none.
Thank you. Turn it over to the committee for any questions or discussion. Does anyone have any questions, any concerns? We almost missed that. That should have been back at the public submissions.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
The only thing I'm
Can you
concerned-
sign in,
Oh,
please?
The only thing I'm concerned about is, oh, Okay, the only thing that I'm concerned about is the fence line and future. Like, this doesn't grant them any more room, does it? It just grants them the ability to build a second story. They're not coming any closer to our property
No, that's my
at any
understanding.
time, even in the future.
That's my understanding. Mark, there isn't room to encroach on either side.
Okay,
It's deficient side yard is what we're trying to address.
right. Well, we're on that side.
Okay.
Right.
But I don't think they're coming closer to you. It's just
Okay.
to recognize it. And
Okay, even when they build the second story, I don't want them to come any closer up there. He says he's just going straight up and that's fine with me. That was my only concern.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I should ask for the, at home, your name, please.
Mike Wall.
Mike, thank you.
Yes, I live there too.
Thank you. Okay,
So if I may make one comment then.
please.
So the Vandries are planning to put a second story that goes straight up. And in the zoning bylaw, the requirement is when you go up, you have to add more distance to your side yard. So you
Yes.
have 1.2, you have to go up 0.5 of a meter
Out.
as you go up.
Yeah.
So they are deficient on both sides, so. Okay. Okay,
So as per the application,
Hmm?
currently they are only deficient on one side,
Yes.
but by going up, they'll be deficient on both sides.
yes, and it's
To
going straight up,
simplify. Okay. But they're not encroaching any further. No.
straight up.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions then from council? Excuse me, committee? All good? Oh, committee member Froze.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just have to go there. If it's anywhere near Vienna and we just talked about the floodplain to build up is smart.
I would say that if they're on top of the hill, if it floods up there, we're all in trouble.
Just saying.
Thank you for that piece of levity. All right, if there are no other questions, we have the decision of the committee. We have a draft motion before us. I'll read it out and see if anyone's interested. That the Committee of Adjustment Secretary Treasurer's Report DS 0826 regarding the Vandries minor variance be received. And that the Committee of Adjustment considered all written and oral submissions received on this application, the effect of which helped the committee to make an informed decision. And whereas the committee agrees that the proposed variance as presented meets section 45.1.1 of the Planning Act and is considered minor. Therefore, application COA 0326 submitted by Matthew Vandries pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act for a minor variance to permit the construction of a second-story addition to an existing single detached dwelling is granted relief from the Municipality of Bayonne zoning bylaw number Z 456/2003 regulations as follows. Section 10.9.1 to permit a minimum side yard width of 1.2 meters on the north side and 0.9 meters on the south side for a two-story dwelling, whereas there's too many wheres here. Whereas where a garage or carport is attached, 1.2 meters plus 0.05 meters for each additional or partial story above the first story on each side of the combined building is required. And section 10.4 to permit a minimum lot frontage of 10.8 meters with public water and sanitary services, whereas 15 meters is required. Having heard the motion, is anyone interested and or moving and seconding this motion? Committee member Emerson will move. Committee member Weiser will second. All in favor? That is carried. Brings us to the adjournment that the Committee of Adjustment meeting for consideration of minor variance application COA 0326 be adjourned at 6:59 PM. And that in accordance with the regulations of the Planning Act, notices of decision be circulated by the Secretary Treasurer accordingly. Mover, please. Committee member Froze and committee member Weiser will second. All in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned. I know. Timed that very well. Wow. Wow, that was really good.
Trying to figure out that.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of council for the municipality of Bayham for Thursday, March the 5th, 2026. It is 7:01 PM and I will call this meeting to order. I'll remind members of disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none noted. I don't believe we have any items not on the agenda.
No items to add tonight, Mr. Mayor. I would just note that closed session item B, we're going to amend the exceptions. We're going to remove the second one. There is no position or plan tonight. It is simply advice that is subject to solicitor client that was identified in the report that was circulated out, and that's the only amendment tonight.
All right, well, thank you for that. Moving on to announcements. Does anyone have any announcements for this evening? Quiet week. All right, we will now jump down to section 7 and deal with the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting, which includes the regular session of council held February the 19th, 2026. The minutes having already been previously circulated. If there are no errors or omissions, I would entertain a mover and seconder for the following, that the minutes from the regular meeting of council held February the 19th, 2026 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Emerson, seconded by Councillor Froese, all in favor? That is carried. Moving on to section 11, physical services and emergency services. 11.2 reports to council. We have report FR 0226 by Harry Bernick, Fire Chief, the CEMC regarding the 2025 annual fire and emergency services report. Good evening, Chief.
Thank you, Worship and Council. Thank you for allowing me to give the annual report on last year's events. This report will also contain the annual report for the emergency management portion, and I will also talk on very briefly the new paramedic dispatch matrix that's going to be coming forth. In 2025, we continue to strive to have our firefighters certified as to NFPA standards. Since I've arrived in 2020, that has always been our goal, and we've maintained those firefighters that have successfully completed the firefighter 1, level 2, and hazardous materials, which is the basic minimum required for certification for firefighters. I will deal with the other matter later on in this presentation. Emergency responses, we were up to a record high of 238 responses. Our average over a 10-year span is 193. But the funny thing about these responses is that the percentage, although we're going to more calls, percentage in each category doesn't change. It has maintained steady and constant, almost constant between the two stations. The nature of the calls are constant. We're just going to more calls. The only thing that seems to be creeping up a little bit is our medical aid, and that will be addressed, hopefully, when I talk about the new matrix coming forth. Our structure fires themselves, we were very fortunate last year. Our total fire loss, according to the fire marshal, was $348,000, with $252,000 coming with one house exploding. Other than that, we would have been dead. We would have had almost a record low of our damage. But I must maintain that we still responded to structure fires. The ability for one was a smoke alarm going off, notifying the residents, and that we were able to contain it within a ceiling. Another was the owner realizing that is smelling smoke, and we were able to contain it to the entranceway to his house. Otherwise, these would have been up well into more than $1 million for those structures, returns. So the ability for these people to notify us and call us and us to contain them has been remarkable. Again, in this report, as I've mentioned, there's no real one single cause. Everything's been varied. So it's hard for a fire prevention aspect to concentrate on one area when you've got so much areas of the causes. And some of this is of human error too. The one thing I must add is with regards to our burning complaints, they were up significantly increased over the last couple of years. And we've also had 2 droughts where the fire chiefs have declared a joint ban across the county. In the previous years that I've been your fire chief, I have had the occasion to lay very limited charges. I would say not more than 1 a year. In fact, there's been 1 or 2 years that I haven't laid a charge. Last year alone, I laid 4. And this is not when I've gone to these people and explained what is going on. This is not for one fraction under our bylaw. This is almost, in fact, their charge was failing to or contravening the bylaw. They were burning while on band. They were burning things they shouldn't be burning. They were burning things too close to a structure, which one caught a structure on fire. These are significant violations. And that is why those charges were laid. And all were paid immediately by the people that were charged. With regards to the medical responses, again, we're significantly up in those. However, I want to point out the new adopting criteria, and I anticipate, hopefully, that a member from the EMS, Medivip EMS, will come and speak to you, or at least allow me to speak to you with regards to more detailed about it. The new matrix is going to better prioritize calls. Currently, if an ambulance is dispatched to a location, that ambulance must go to that location. If they pass by a more urgent call, they are not allowed to detour. They must continue to their original call. This has some concerns to when you have limited ambulances and you have a large area. So what's going to end up happening is, and this has already happened in many parts of Ontario, more to our east, and it's just making its way to southwestern Ontario. What's going to happen is they're going to better prioritize the call. They're going to ask a lot more questions, and hopefully prioritize that cruiser or that ambulance to the right location with the right priority. And if they are en route to the location and something more priority comes by and they're in the area, they will deviate that paramedic crew to assist the public in a better way. I know I've gone myself to a residence where somebody has come across with a complaint, and I noticed that the suitcase is at the front door. Family members that have vehicles parked in the driveway are standing there waiting for the ambulance to come and drive this person to the hospital. The other part was, I believe there's a belief that if we come by ambulance, we're going to get in quicker. I can tell you that most hospitals now have with their agreements with the paramedic services, if you're not a priority, you will go to that waiting room and you'll be put in line with everybody else. So the fallacy of calling an ambulance and you're going to get better service or a quicker service is not correct. You will be triaged, of course, but if you fall within the priority, you are going to end up in the waiting room like everybody else. With this new matrix, I will be looking at our tiered medical response criteria, and it's very possible that we will be changing it to meet their more upper priorities and let the latter ones fall off of our criteria. As there's with agreement with them, of course. With regards to other calls, we continue to respond to many motor vehicle collisions. Those collisions, a few of them come across with unknown injury or unknown damage. We're going to those as if they were injured until we find out otherwise. That is the nature of this business. And with regards to cell phones, we still respond to 1 or 2 that are cell phone activated. Again, with regards to our rescue calls, we have had 6 rescue calls, and unfortunately 1 did result in a drowning due to the rip current, again last year. Training, as I stated earlier, we continue to strive to meet the new NFPA certification standards. Our next priority is going to be to have our technical responses, which includes such things as high angle, ice water, swift water. These are technical courses that require different or another certification. And it's important that that the fire department that will respond to it under their establishing regulating bylaw that council agrees to, that these members be certified. So it'll be, I'll be looking at forming a team within our municipality between both stations, best we can. With regards to the certification of the other firefighters, I'll be honest with you that there are some firefighters that will not certify and cannot certify. I had spoken with the fire marshal regarding this, and he kind of suggested, and it was his suggestion, my fire advisor of the fire marshal, that we could look at possibly coming up with a criteria where they're identified differently, but they can still help as a backup role, which would include such things as running the pumps at a fire structure. They're still medically trained, so they would still be able to go to medical calls and assist in that. It's just for the ability to limit liability to the municipality. It's the ability to have set ground rules that if you are indicated as one of these firefighters, you will follow by these. And if you cannot, then you'll be dismissed. But on the same hand, if you can follow them, they're an asset to us. They have the training, they've had the skills. They're just not meeting the new criteria. So that's the point that will make. But before I do that, before that can happen, I'll have to bring it back to council with an amendment to our establishing regulating bylaw and get approval from you. And it'll have in that a job description, so they know exactly what they're doing. With regards to equipment and building upgrades, we did take possession of our new SCBA's. We're very grateful to council for allowing us to do that. They are working extremely, I have had no complaints. The firefighters are really enjoying them, and they're having as said, there's been no complaints. We did have a problem with our one pumper that we did receive back in the prior year, and that was the ability of the clearance. I was able, in fact, it was one of my firefighters who is what's called an emergency vehicle technician. He was able to supply a reasonable solution to the problem. I spoke with the manufacturer agreed, and it was looked after, in fact, under warranty, and it not only met the standard that was required under the EPA, it surpassed the standard. So it's up about 3 inches, and we're grateful for that. In early December, it was brought to my attention that one of the firefighters who works for a company that supplies equipment had a possibility of obtaining some used, or least used auto extrication equipment, and the association was willing to assist in this matter. The municipality and the association, staying within budget, assisted with the matter, and we were able to purchase a new set of hydraulic equipment. They came from a larger city's fire department who was getting rid of all their hydraulic equipment, but this came from and they were able to look at it, make sure it was properly working, and they were able to get the best of what was there. And for our purposes, the Port Purple station has almost a new set of equipment at about a fraction of the cost it would have cost to get a brand new set of equipment. So I commend them for coming up with that and bring that to my attention. Fire safety education, again, we continue going to schools, especially during Fire Prevention Week. I've just recently had a very good news story that will probably come up in next year's review. However, working with smaller communities. But again, we have to educate the public with regards to lithium-ion batteries. They're still becoming a problem, especially in the urban areas. I'm reading reports of them all the time. People have to understand, you have to use that battery and that charger that the manufacturer made for that piece of equipment. Going online and sometimes buying something that is a little cheaper is not gonna save you in the long run. It may actually hurt, in fact, lead to fatality. And also, when you're charging your lithium ion batteries, do not put them in the means of egress. If it's your exit, leave it as an exit. Don't have that e-bike sit right beside that door, because if that's the thing that goes up, that just stops your means of egress. And that's happened more than once in reports that I've read. Our emergency management. We had a good year with that. We were able to, through our grant, purchase that trailer, equip that trailer. It is now sitting in the Port Burwell Fire Station. As it reads below, it has generator, portable pumps, sandbagging device, and with sandbags, radios, chainsaws, and signage, and it's up and running. So we're grateful for that. And we did meet the requirements for our training and our exercise with the assistance of the county. And the one thing I must add, that we also met our ability to update our emergency response plan, including the contact list. And I got to commend the clerical staff upstairs, who really have to call almost everybody there and say, every group, and say, is everybody still there? And we know how much people change in jobs. There has been some where it's an incomplete change. So that's necessary. Budget, I kept within budget. We came back a little higher on our revenues, and again, that has to do with the reciprocal, or the finally being paid for our equipment that we use at the rubber fire up at Legend Rubber was a big factor of that. Protective clothing, I was intending to buy some coveralls with the associations. We were having a little difficulty with the suppliers and coming up with proper, but we obtained the quotes, and I'm in the process of coming forth with the association, and we're going to purchase some coveralls. The coveralls are extremely important because they help to do with heat stress. Not all the time do you need your bunker gear to call. And the bunker gear is very cumbersome. It weighs 20 pounds. And it can, especially when it's in mid-July, coming with coveralls is a much better idea. So, and it helps with the firefighters. And it can also be used during this fire. These coveralls are fire retardant, so that they will be able to be also used for any type of a wildland fire. So if we're chasing some fires in the fields, they'll be able to use this and also be protected, but at the same time be much cooler. Basically, with regards to grants, we obtained the 2024 grant and installed one door at the Port Burwell Station. And we moved the extractor up in the Stratfordville Station. That grant was for $16,200. This year, they doubled it to 35,400, and we've applied for air purification systems and some gear to help better protect the firefighters through that grant, and we have been approved for that grant. So I'm in the process of gathering the proper quotes so that I can bring them forward to council. And we also had an inter-county fire department agreement for mental health supports. The government came up with what's called MHS 4PSP, which is the Mental Health Supports for Public Service Personnel Program. And during that program, they were allowed, and it's not only for fires, for police, ambulance, correctional guards, coroners, and it had to do with better preparing the members for how to prepare themselves for mental health considerations, and to recognize the risk for mental health situations. Through that grant, we pooled our money. 99% of the municipalities in Elgin pooled the money, and we put them all to, and by that way we were allowed to, and it gave us a bigger fund. And now we've had 3 of the 4 programs already take place. We've got 1 more program to go. So we're very grateful for that. In conclusion, we're continuing with our recruiting. I'm really seeking people for daytime That seems to be in our area, especially we're becoming a bedroom community for our cities and our towns next to us. And finding people during the day is getting harder and harder. And also the people responding. What was funny is it can be shown because our calls are going up, but our remuneration did not go up that much. Which is telling me let's be able to go on the calls. Because we're not available during the day. Again, we'll work with, we continue with our education on batteries and electrical vehicles. We continue with that. I will continue for this year to sit on the Section 21 committee. I find it very beneficial for this community because I'm able to bring the expertise that I've learned from the different committee members, bring it back here and make sure that we are trying to follow the same rules. Gives me a greater asset. So the priorities in 2026, again, as I said, continue with recruitment, continue developing our recruit class and make sure that they meet all the standards. Mandatory certification, as I stated, and community risk assessment. Continue working on that. Continue developing our contacts with different associations. And one thing I openly admit that I'm a little behind on is continuing to develop our standard operating guidelines. I have to get back on that so that with standard operating guidelines, I'm not only protecting the firefighter, but I'm also protecting council, this municipality, in case something goes wrong. We continue to, again, finances, but we'll work with the treasurer and work with future capitals, but also to try to remain within budget. Our tanker is going to be 2 in May this year. It is coming. We've been told, the first one hits the line next week. The next one will hit in 2 weeks later, and then the final one will hit, and then hit the line 2 weeks later. This is for our fire department, Malahide Fire Department, and I believe West Elgin's Fire Department. And again, I've already handed about the other matters that are within my report. I'm now open to questions if council has any questions.
All right, thank you very much for that comprehensive report, Chief. Does anyone have any questions for Harry? Wow, I've got a few. Harry, and thank you for mentioning about the training and mentioning about the standard operating guidelines and your comments regarding trying to find accommodations with recommendations from the fire marshal on some of those staff that may not be able to achieve that training. Just to lend some comfort for council, check into what is there's got to be guidelines to protect the overall liability of the corporation and make sure that they're not a detriment to the overall platoon. So that's something you're gonna have to balance out. Now, trust that you'll do that.
Your worship, absolutely. As I said, a job description will come with that new position. That job description will limit their duties.
Right.
If they are found going over those duties, then I'll have no other choice but to go through discipline measures, progressive discipline. And if it's serious enough, that may mean the final one of termination. We cannot, I cannot put yourself, any of the other fire officers or myself in jeopardy just for the sake of somebody wanting to do more than what they should be doing.
I certainly appreciate those comments. Councilor Frost.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to the fire chief. Are other municipalities facing the same type of situation?
Through your worship, I would say yes. Obviously, this came from the fire advisor, my fire advisor who looks after a region. And it was his idea that, so this has come up from somewhere else. And it's up north, it's a very more difficult situation up there because they have much more limited in some small communities. And with regards to recruitment and retention, this is a North American problem. I have read more reports on ideas on how to retain firefighters, how to recruit firefighters. My biggest challenge is a lot of them come with a price tag on them. And due to the fact we just recently got ourselves out of a little bit of a previous occurrence that we've all dealt with as a community. And we're trying to be fiscally responsible and the other growing needs that are coming. It's hard for me to come and say, how can we enhance these benefits? I still may have to do it, and I'll wait for your reply to that, but I am looking at every way to better recruit and better retain our firefighters.
Chief, what's the expectation of the live fire training exercise or training grounds coming online?
We've, through the, I believe it was the Abandoned Wells Grant, the county was able to obtain a training exercise of CCANs, for lack of better words, and they're gonna be putting it in Talbotville. The county actually runs our training. It's called the Elgin Middlesex Regional Training Center. And we needed both municipalities in order to actually get our training center. So that when we're in front of, when we came to this grant, they were able to obtain it. We've recently, I believe they've gone to council and asked permission for them to place it into the Talbotville station. And hopefully the idea is that if BAM needs to want to go out and deal with some live fire, we need a container to do this in a proper situation. Burning up old buildings and going inside those is not a good idea anymore. One of the bad news is that before you even go in there, the amount of work that has to be done beforehand. Is there mold in there? Is there anything else? Is there any type of, you have to do all those inspections before you can light it up. And then if you're gonna light up part of the fire, how much you may have to put drywall in this area that you're gonna be lighting up and everything else. It's a great liability. And you have to have some people that are certified for that under a special certification, under the NFPA. By doing this, it's gonna be a controlled environment. It's gonna be a safe environment. And we're going to hopefully be able to use it like every other municipality in Elgin. And after reading with the gentleman in charge of the school and emergency measures, he has assured us that it will be at no cost to members of the county.
Just to clarify, what the chief is hinting at is it'll be on-site live fire exercises. Otherwise, they'll be lit up when you put them down. That's what it's about. So it's another training opportunity coming to Elgin, Elgin County and the fire departments across Elgin. And I think it's, I'm not saying it's going to be a real boost for, attracting candidates, but you never know. You never know.
I'll also be honest with regard to attracting candidates is that I know several full-time municipal departments that 60 to 80% of the recruits are coming from volunteers now. There was a period of time they wouldn't even look at volunteers, but they know that they know that the volunteers are not only certified, but they have the experience behind them. And they have the ability to work with equipment. They've already worked with it. And again, I use that as a tool for anybody that I speak to with regards to recruitment.
Well, absolutely. It's an entryway into the full-time services. There's no such thing as a professional and a non-professional. They're all professionals. They're all trained to the same standard. So good. One last question. Are you going to have one of those push-in ceremonies for the new tanker when it gets here?
Absolutely.
Are you going to invite council to come and play?
Absolutely. I'm suggesting start a workout right now. Get ready. This is going to be a 3,000 gallon tanker. She's going to have a pound or two udders to push her in. So I'm strongly suggesting that, if we're going to help, we all need to do some more squats and build up the leg muscles.
Well, I suppose technically we could have two of these ceremonies for when we move the other vehicle down the road.
She's still a part of ours. She's and I apologize for using my acronym of calling her she. It's just my history of how I've always been taught that is the way you call vehicles. There's a reason for that, but I'm going to apologize for that. It should be the vehicle.
We'll forgive you this time, Jerry. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for the chief? You can wait.
I'm always available.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Chief, for the presentation and for the updates for things that are going on in the department. I think all of council would say that we are cognizant of the cost of fire services. But if we're in need of them, we're grateful they're there. So if we're going to have one, we're going to make sure you're properly equipped and well trained. So.
Your worship, if I could make one last comment.
Mhm.
When our MP was here this week, I also brought up to him the fact of the costs and how astronomical they are. And any benefit coming from any level of government would be grateful.
Well, it'd be nice to see something coming from the federal government to help us with fire services, wouldn't it?
One can only put a seed in the big crop or in the big field of the federal government
Absolutely.
to let it grow.
Perfect. All right, with nothing further then, we have a motion that report FR 0226 regarding the 2025 annual fire and emergency services report be received for information. Can I have a mover and second? Councilor Emerson, Councilor Crowell will second. All in favor? That's carried. Item B, we have report PS 0226 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent regarding the 2025 annual drinking water and compliance summary. Welcome, Steve. This is the first time for this one for you.
This is definitely the first time. So we'll give it our all anyways. Thank you, worship. Good evening, everyone. So the report before you, the 2025 drinking water compliance summary for both Bayham and Richmond water systems. In 2025, municipality operated both Bayham and Richmond systems. Within the report, the attached annual reports for both systems were prepared under the OREG 170-03. Both systems remained in compliance throughout the year with licensing requirements and design capacities. The progress year was right back from January 1st to December 31st, 2025. And starting this year, as of January 1st, 2026, as you know, Ontario Clean Water Agency took over operations of both systems, and this report was prepared through them. So just to break down the summaries of the reports in front of you, starting with the BAM distribution system, within the report, I'm just going to give a bit of a breakdown. I tried to get some of pull some of the points out of it, so just for some understanding. So the 2025 BAM distribution system annual water report, this system was prepared by Aqua in accordance with the Safe Drinking Waters Act, ORIG 170-03, Section 11. The report covers the period January 1st to January 31st, 2025. This was to be provided to the municipal council by March 31st of this year. And then it'll also available to the public at no charge. So the BAM distribution system supplies potable water to over 1,590 residents through 860 residential service connections to the village of Vienna, Port Burwell, and a few outside Port Burwell. Water is supplied from the area water treatment plant known as the primary system, which draws water from Lake Erie and provides treatment and disinfection throughout the system, including the secondary disinfection systems at the Port Burwell Water Tower and Lakeview Rechlorination Facility. That's at the corner of Richmond Road. The systems remain fully compliant with the Ontario Drinking Water's quality standards in 2025. There is no adverse water quality incidents, no non-compliance events, community complaints, spills, or water main, major water main breaks. Let's go with that. Reported through this period, Ministry of Environment, Conservation Parks conducted the inspection January 5th, 2026. And this resulted in 100% inspection rating with 0 non-compliance findings. So sum that piece up. Obviously this goes to the past water operators and the past supervisor or manager that has now retired. They kept the system in a well-working manner for many years, talking to the MECP, inspector. Very well, the system, the operators are very, very well known in the area. And we're hoping moving forward with Aqua that will continue as well. So with the water monitoring, 159 microbiological samples were taken, all showed no E. coli, no coliform detections, indicating safe drinking water throughout the year. Additionally, 416 chlorinated samples were taken with acceptable ranges. And just to kind of sum up the flows, so the system supplied approximately 177,057 cubic meters of water. This is the water taken right from where it enters BAM, which is an average of 69 meters to 722, depending on seasonal flows or seasonal demand dailies throughout the municipality. So overall, the system does comply, operated safely, reliable, and is within full regulations throughout 2025. And just to break down the annual summary, 101,473 meters went to Port Burwell, 63,038 cubic meters went to Vienna, with a small amount along Lakeshore as it's coming into Port Burwell. So just as a percentage from 2024, it's roughly the whole system is averages an 8.5% increase. 10 of it being in Port Burwell and a smaller amount in Vienna. So I think overall, obviously the east side of Port Burwell, we saw some building in the last 2 years, and this may be part of it. We did have a leak in the late summer, I guess, that was undetected, and so there's a little bit of extra flow from that. However, breaking it down and trying to get some info on the flows, that's about it for the BAM distribution center. And I guess if there's any questions on that while I'm on it, I could do my best to help you out. If not, I can always bring something back to council. Other than that, I can give you a little brief history of the Richmond system.
Well, we'll pause for a moment. Any questions on the BAM system, the distribution system, or Vienna? Steve, the not going to call it a break, but the major leak that you had was within the Vienna system, just
Yes,
to the north side of the bridge.
that's correct. So absolutely, your worship. Just to spread on that a bit, it was a hard one to detect because it was at the edge of the creek bank. So it took the operators quite a while, quite extensive valve down operations. They had some different machines they brought in all over the town trying to figure this out. It ended up being a creek bank repair, and unfortunately, when they caught it, it was fixed and taken care of right away. So, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions on the BAM system, let's move on with Richmond then, please.
Okay, so the Richmond drinking water and treatment, I guess it's treatment and system. It's a small system. It's considered services less than 10,000 people. This system supplied by 2 drilled overburden wells and 1 rock bed well. The treatment process is part of the treatment process is softening, nitrate, filtration, chlorination, and UV disinfection. And this is all monitored and measured through the SCADA computerized programming. In 2025, the system remained in compliance with the Ontario drinking water regulations and tested, confirmed that no E. coli or total coliform was detected in either the raw or treated water samples. Laboratory testing in the inorganic and organic perimeters found that all the results were within the regulatory limits. Most values were recorded as below the minimum detection limit. There was one triggered event for sodium levels, slightly over, I guess, the normal. This triggered a drinking water advisory notification to the medical officer of health. This is a standard notification. It's not regulatory compliance. So that was taken care of in the next testing stage. Overall, the system again, once again, it operated safely. MECP did their inspection, same date. Again, very happy to come down to the plant and see that no issues, nothing to record. And just to move on into a little bit of the production of the system. So in 2025, the total production was 11,899 cubic meters. This was a decrease of 2.2% from 2024. So that was averages out to about 260 cubic meters difference. So very, very small. Nothing out of the ordinary, I guess. The development in Richmond has not really grown. So that way, the overall system. So the system is rated for 43 cubic meters a day. And right now, the east and west transmission line, they're operating about 36 and 39% capacity. So obviously, there's still lots of room there. My understanding, I haven't dove right into service connections, and my understanding is there is under 10 anyways connections that could be hooked up at this point still that are already in the ground without obviously tapping into the line and creating a new connection. So moving on with that, I think that's about what I have for you tonight. If there's any questions about that Richmond system, I'm happy to help.
Steve, thank you for a report, your comments regarding the 10 available connections right at this moment. There's housing right there, but it's not compliance that they have to connect into the system? Is that how it's standard or currently is?
From what I've learned, there's 7 connections throughout the village that haven't been developed yet.
Oh, 7 lots?
Yes,
Okay.
7
All right.
additional connections that were stubbed when they redid it in 2018, 2019. So I'm not 100% sure on those locations at this point. But there must be some area there that is developable first. So
Thank you for the clarification. I was thinking that by your comments, if you meant that there were 10 houses that the water line goes by, but wasn't mandatorily connected, I thought there's something wrong here. But okay,
We
so
hope not.
that's,
I haven't found that out yet.
well, you might.
So we're still diving into it. So absolutely. Just to actually, I didn't, one more comment. It was actually a decrease from 2024. It was a 2.7 decrease in water usage. So it wasn't a whole lot difference, but there was a small decrease where Port Burwell went up, Richmond went down. So 2.2% wet summer. If you look at the summer flows within the report, you'll see that maybe grass wasn't being watered in the larger month, the annual larger months, July and August. So
Okay.
moving forward, yeah, we'll the operators with Aqua seem to be on board with continuing, the operation as it is, and we're hoping it works well for the municipality. We're going to keep a close eye on it.
Well, thank you for that, Steve. The takeaway that I'm hearing is that it's still a smooth transition and things are business as usual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to hear. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Adams on the Richmond report? Okay, thank you. Do you have something to add, Thomas?
Yeah, just a quick comment that, I mean, this is obviously new to Steve's portfolio with the retirement of Mr. Rollison. And I just want to mention that the first couple months of the year, learning a whole bunch of this stuff and, basically overseeing, Aqua's transition and whatnot. Steve's done a great job. And we're looking forward to having a supervisor come on board in the next couple of weeks to support that. So yeah, it should be a good year.
Well, thank you for that comment. And yes, Steve, congratulations. Thank you for shouldering this responsibility too for us. Okay. All right, we have a motion that reads that report PS 0226 regarding the 2025 annual drinking water and compliance summary reporting, BAM, and Richmond water systems be received for information. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Emerson will move. Councillor Froese will second. All in favor? That is carried. Moving on, with section 12, development services, sustainability and conservation, 12.1 correspondence, 12.1.1 to receive for information. We have 6 items. Item A, notice of decision regarding minor variance, COA 0126 Bugert. Item B, notice of decision regarding minor variance, COA 0226 Tatar. Item C, notice of passing regarding zoning bylaw number Z 820-2026 Newfeld. D, notice of passing regarding zoning bylaw number 2821, Z 821-2026 Wall. Item E, notice of passing regarding zoning bylaw number Z 822-2026 Gunther. And item F, notice of public meeting regarding minor variance, COA 0326 Van Dries. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none. Mover and seconder for the following, that items 12.1.1A through F be received for information. Deputy Mayor will move. And I believe I saw Councillor Frose's hand went up. Will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Brings us to 12.2. It's a good thing you didn't go far, Steve. Reports to council. Report DR 0226 by Steve Adams, Manager Public Works, Drainage and Superintendent regarding the Little Jerry Creek Drain. Major improvement. Section 78 request.
Thank you,
That was
Worship.
foreshadowed a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're on the right track. Anyhow, so yes, the Little Jerry Creek Drain. This is our largest drain that runs through the municipality. It was constructed in 1955. It actually is a collector drain of over 21 separate municipal drains. So it is an important drain. It nearly within the report of 2,500 hectares. It was hard. We were missing some data, but that's what it was operated for. So this takes water from southwest actually, and it also has natural water course within Malahide as well. So the 3 municipalities. However, the main system runs from Cressy Line right down to outlets into the Big Otter. Once it passes Eden Line, it's a natural water course until it gets to the Big Otter, I should say. So anyhow, during the 2025 bridge and culvert inspection, these 2 large corrugated steel pipes under Best Line, this is just east of the Best Line Cemetery, east of the village, were identified in poor condition. These were installed between 57 and 1960. The culverts are actually deteriorating from the bottom up. So is what's happening there is we've really identified in the last report that the culverts are collapsing. They're slowly pushing up from the bottom. So engineer did put a request within the next 5 years that these would be replaced. So the project was included in the capital budget and was PW 34 with engineers scheduled for 2026 and the construction plan for 2027. However, as identified, the culverts were considered part of the municipal drain and the municipal drain plan in 1955. So the work should proceed under the major improvement under the Drainage Act. Staff are proposing additional work to the Little Jerry, which would include brushing, clean out, design profile. So after moving forward with this, we went upstream and downstream, and there's a lot of profile that has changed. There's a lot of extra stuff. And there's also a lot of assessment changes since the last time this drain has been looked at. So to do it fairly, it's pretty much turns into a full comprehensive report. So the capital budget currently included tax levy of 50,000 for 2026 for the engineering and 450 for 2027 for the construction of the pipes. As the work proceeds under the Drainage Act, the cost will ultimately go to the benefit landowners. However, the municipality will be responsible for the portion assessment along municipal roads. And to build on that, in a culvert crossing in a municipal road, we also pay for everything above the pipe. We will pay for the guardrails to be put back. We'll be paid for the road to be rebuilt. So there is some additional cost with that. Ultimately, within the report, it was identified that 50,000 would be kept in as a reserve until we finish the report. And we get a final cost, municipal cost for the road allowance. And hopefully we can get this before the capital budget for next year so we can alter the capital budget accordingly as well. With this, staff are recommending to adopt or to move ahead with the notice of drain improvement and retain streets associated to start the survey and plan the engineer report. And with this, we'd also have to have a site meeting on site as the next step. We're just working on that. Everybody within the site meeting would be any benefiting owners would get asked to that. So pretty much anybody that has property attached to this drain, which is pretty big. So we'll, if council wishes to move ahead, staff will prepare the next documents to move forward.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions? Steve, the overall cost that you had quoted prior to deciding to go the Drainage Road Act or Drainage Act road, excuse me, did that include the proposed brushing or is this on top?
No, that's gonna be on top.
Okay.
So I think this drain's been looked at for a few years, but I think because the assessment schedule, it's a scary one. There's no doubt. There's no other way to put it. However, when I looked into the research of it and to identify how many drains it affects, when it comes down to the end of it, every one of those drains will also be affected. So the cost of all this is actually going to go out to a lot of people. It really is. I mean, however, it's the benefit to those property owners in the future. So there's going to be a lot of permitting with this as well.
Does the brushing get included into the Drainage Act or is it
Yeah.
something that? Really? So it's a maintenance across or is
Yeah,
it something
so
that's going to?
brushing and bottom clean out will still run under the maintenance activities.
All right.
And pending how the engineer wants to put it in within the report. For the culvert improvement project, that will probably be a side report where the report's gonna be rebuilt.
Yeah.
It'll be a side engineering report for the culverts. The brushing activity will just be done through myself. However, before we start the brushing activity, I just want a fair schedule as well. So the properties that are split, like Corinth, I think I identified 19 properties in the first 10 minutes of looking at the report have been split. So we need to get that done correctly so people aren't overpaying for the drain assessments.
I think it's the fairest thing to do.
I look forward to the meetings.
Well, it's gonna be fun, isn't it?
Me too, Dan.
Yeah. And the idea of taking that 50,000 that was allocated, reserving that to help pay for the road reconstruction portion.
That's correct. We'll obviously after, I think there's gonna be preliminary numbers. It's worth having a preliminary number so we can identify it to everybody and, you know, it's gonna stir up a lot of people that do want the improvement. I have talked to landowners along there and I think it's gonna be good. It's just, yeah, the culvert itself, it's a lot of money. That was the pre-engineered design as well, costing. So until it happens or until we get quote tender quotes, we actually don't know what it will be. So
Yep.
hopefully it'll come in less.
Okay. Any other questions from any member of council? Then we have a proposed motion that report DR 0226 regarding major improvement, Little Jerry Creek Drain, capital item number PW 34, be received for information. And that council wishes to proceed with major improvements to the Little Jerry Creek Drain and appoints Street Associates Limited engineers to prepare a report on the proposed drainage area pursuant to section 5 and section 8(1) of the Drainage Act for council's consideration. Can I have a mover and second for that? Council Froze will move, Deputy Mayor, excuse me. Weiser will second, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on with item B, report DR 0326 by Steve Adams, Manager Public Works Drainage Superintendent regarding the Bartley Drain Smith Branch Extension. Another major improvement. Section 78 request. We're gonna be making all kinds of friends.
Well, this friend this was actually brought up when we did the Bartley drain assessment. The landowner was actually at our meeting and brought it up that he would may be looking into improvements, so. Yes, so the Smith branch is a branch of the Bartley drain, which was constructed in 2001. It provides drainage to the east side of Cloden Road. So this is kind of between Eden Line and Best Line. And couple catch basins either side of the county road, and that's really all it service. It's a 600 millimeter to a 900 millimeter pipe that runs through the field and connects into the open ditch of the Bartley drain. So on February 25th, 2026, the municipality received a request from MMJ Chromzak Farms, Inc. under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for major drain improvement to the Smith Branch drain. The request relates to the agricultural grounds off of Cloden Road, east side of Cloden Road, concession 9, lot 6, which was recently purchased. And the homeowner or landowner has identified drainage concerns to the property and is looking for a legal outlet, drainage outlet. So this unfortunately goes beyond the routine maintenance, as it would be an extension to the drain. We were out there, we actually surveyed it, I helped them. We tried to figure an alternative route to go around. We had a tile guy that was there. Fortunately, when in 2000, the landowner at the time chose not to be on this. So if he would have bought into this at the time, he would be able to drain into it. So he's doing it the right way. He fully wants to have a legal outlet, and so they are proposing to investigate further. We'll hold an on-site meeting again with him and any other, maybe another landowner that will be involved. However, this is one that the costs will be associated with the Mr. Chromozak farm, I guess. And staff would recommend again for Spreet's engineer to begin their investigation and schedule the on-site meeting with municipal staff and landowners. If there's any questions on this one.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for that. Any questions? Okay. Then the motion would read the report DR 0326 regarding major improvement Bartley Drain Smith Branch Extension be received for information, and that council wishes to proceed with major improvements to the Bartley Drain Smith Branch and appoint Spreet Associates Limited engineers to prepare a report on the proposed drainage area pursuant to Section 5 and Section 8(1) of the Drainage Act for council's consideration. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Emerson will move. Councilor Froese will second. All in favor? And we are carried. Which brings us to item C. Report DS 0926 by Evan McKinstry, Junior Planner of the Elgin County, regarding consent application E2126 Hodgson and wow. We'll let Evan pronounce that one at 56649 Heritage Line. Good evening, Evan, and welcome.
Everybody hear me okay?
Certainly.
Perfect. All right, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council, the report before you is for consent application E2126. The purpose of this application is to sever a parcel of lands described as 56649 Heritage Line, Stratfordville, for the creation of a new residential lot. The applicant proposes to sever a parcel with a frontage of 20 meters, a depth of 60.96 meters, and an area of 1,219 meters squared for the creation of a new lot. The applicant is retaining a lot with an area of 2,023.87 meters squared proposed to remain in residential use. The subject lands are designated within the Tier 2 settlement area in the County of Elgin official plan, designated residential in the Municipality of BAM official plan, and zoned village residential in the BAM zoning bylaw. Consent application E2126 was reviewed by staff with considerations of the provincial planning statement, Elgin County official plan, Municipality of BAM official plan, and the Municipality of BAM zoning bylaw. With respect to the PPS, residential lot creation and intensification is encouraged within the settlement area, subject to regulations and appropriate servicing. The County of Elgin official plan permits residential lot creation within settlement areas and encourages residential intensification. The proposed severance complies with the Municipality of BAM's official plan policies. The subject lands are designated residential, and the municipality supports residential lot creation within settlement areas. In terms of the Municipality of BAM zoning bylaw, no further planning applications are required as the subject lands will meet all appropriate zoning provisions and uses. It is to note this application was circulated for internal comments by municipal departments. At the time of this meeting, it is noted the severed lot will be subject to the Municipality of BAM's development charges that are collected at the time of the building permit. Also noted that highlighted in report PS 07-25 did not account for any future consent applications and associated wastewater connections because of the timing and location of consent applications is difficult to predict. Staff advised that with every new connection added by consent, the wastewater treatment capacity is impacted outside of ongoing subdivision applications and building activity. With all this being said, it is recommended that the council recommends approval to the Elgin County Land Division Committee for consent application E2126, which would facilitate the severance for the creation of a new lot, subject to the following conditions and considerations. 1, that the owner installs a new private well in the proposed severed lot, providing the municipality with a well record showing the water quantity and water quantity reports for bacterial and nitrates content meeting the provincial standards for residential use as a matter of public health and safety. 2, that the owner obtains and requires permits from the municipality and county to install new municipal sanitary service connections to the proposed severed lot. 3, that the owner provide confirmation of an approved County of Elgin road access permit. 4, that the owner provide an engineering stamped grading a stormwater management plan for the severed parcel, demonstrating the lot will drain properly with no negative impacts on neighboring lands or the street, all to the satisfaction of the municipality and the County of Elgin. 5, that the owner applies and pays all fees to the municipality with respect to the civic addressing / signage for the severed lot. 6, that the owner pay all fees required in the municipal bylaw number 2025-007 cash in lieu to Parkland to the municipality. 7, that the owner provides a planning report fee payable to the municipality upon the grading of consent. 8, that the owner provides a digital copy of the final survey to the municipality. With that, I'm open to any questions or concerns. Thank you, Mr. Worship.
Thank you, Evan, for that. Any questions from members of council or staff? Hearing none? Might bungle it, but I was gonna try it. All right, we have a proposed motion before us, and since the presenter has already gone through the 8 conditions, I will just go through the first 2 paragraphs. So, that report DS 0926 regarding the consent application E2126 submitted by Leonard Hodgson and Ramona Jakusinskis be received. And that council recommends approval to the Elgin County Land Division Committee that consent application E2126 which would facilitate the severance for the creation of a new lot, subject to the conditions and considerations as outlined by the planner. Is anyone willing to move and second that? Councillor Emerson will move, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? And that is carried. And thank you for that report, Evan. Welcome to Vail.
Thank you. Looking forward to working with
Moving on
everybody.
Section 13, Finance and Administration. 13.1 correspondence, 13.11 to receive for information. We have 6 items. Item A, the Elgin County Council highlights February 24th, 2026. B, Elgin County Council regarding the Committee of the Whole minutes, February 10th, 2026. C, Elgin County Council regarding the regular council meeting minutes, February the 10th, 2026. D, Township of Perry regarding reduced rate distribution of library resources. E, the Ontario Public Works Association regarding the 2026 Committee and Board of Directors. And F, top aggregate producing municipalities in Ontario's regarding the newsletter for 2026. Any questions, any of these items correspond? Seeing none, I will entertain a mover and seconder that items 13.11A through F be received for information. Councillor Emerson will move that. Councillor Froese will second that. All in favor? We are carried. 13.2, reports to council. We report TR 1126 by Lauren James, treasurer, regarding the short-term investment strategies and birthday boy.
Thank you, your worship. I do have a step in my go tonight, so thank you.
Happy birthday, Lauren.
I'm still 39.
Glad to hear it. As are most of us.
We all want to be 39, not 40. Your worship, members of council, just to bring council up, previously on our February 19th meeting, council received report TR 0626, which was our 2025 investment report, the boilerplate report, as I call it. It identified that we're currently sitting in a cash operating position, high yield cash, and that the treasurer would come back with a investment report in short term. I thought it was prudent to not wait till we had the Q1 report. The Bank of Canada has an interest rate cut, meaning potentially cut, raise, or neutral on March the 18th. The timing of the next March meeting would not be appropriate, and the April would be too far late. As we see, when I wrote this report a week and a half ago, the finance world has changed. Right now we have a conflict in Iran, oil prices are going up, some of the world stock markets are coming down. So there's a little bit of turmoil on potential rate cuts that potentially could happen with the Federal Reserve, Bank of Canada, and other lenders. Also, there's concerns of higher inflation, so countries might look to, cut rates to ease monetary pressure for, their nations. So during the time from the February 19th meeting up until the time of drafting this report, I reached out to multiple financial lenders. As you can see illustrated, reached out to Royal Bank of Canada, which has been our primary lender and investment firm for a number of years now. Canaccord, which is well renowned in the municipal community and aggressively advertises, markets their products to lower tiers, upper tiers, single tiers, and a lot in the municipal university, schools, and hospital sectors, which is what we are in the MUSH sector. Also reached out to Benton Financial. They're a smaller financial arm on the West Coast, but they do some municipalities out in BC. And also reached out to Raymond Jones, which also does municipal investments, mostly of the nature of GIC and callable notes. End of the day, right now we're yielding 2.85. It is subject to market flexibility from Bank of Canada decisions, a little bit of Federal Reserve, and a little bit of the Canadian bond market. So I put out to the financial firms that we were looking for a minimum of 3.85. So 1% yield above our current 2.85 as our benchmark if we're going to park over $7 million. In addition to that, some of our cemetery boards are up for renewal. As you can see, Strathville is up for 21,000 and change. That is because one GIC has matured, and Strathville has an additional 10,000 that they would like to short-term invest. Colton Cemetery also has 10,000. So as you see, there are some of our other municipal partners that we own through a consolidation have opportunities to invest. We do have other GICs that will come up for maturity later in the spring, later in the summer. We'll have to deal with the prescribed rates then. Them being Eden Cemetery, another Stratfordville, and the care and maintenance. We'll have to see what the prevailing rates are at that time. We cannot lock those rates in because those bonds are not ready for maturity and they're not breakable. So the recommendation tonight is to go with Royal Bank. They've given us the highest rate yield on 1-year GIC, 3.85. That's 1% above the current what we're getting on the cash carrying account. Gives us security in case the Fed and the Bank of Canada does cut. And unfortunately, the conflict in Iran and oil prices continue on. Also gives us security in case trade negotiations with Canada, US, and CUSMA fall apart and the US decides to open up the review, and potentially Bank of Canada will have to cut to ease pressure for Canadian domestic production as well as exporters. In addition to that, also piggyback for Colton and Strathville for their GIC notes as well.
Right. Thank you, Lauren. Does anyone have any questions? Lauren, it's 7 million minimum in order to make that 3.85.
Correct, your worship.
All right. If you invest, because this is currently on the whatever you want to call that, it was The 2.85 was basically a current account value.
Current account because we had a substantial balance in
Yes.
excess of 5 mil.
Correct. The question I have for you is by investing the 7 million, does that put us into a perhaps a cash strap potential or cash flow issue on some of these larger projects that may be required this year? Or are we talking about programming for next year?
So this would
When are the
be-
funds going to be needed?
There's enough funds remaining on hand to deal with the current capital in this year's budget,
All right.
as well as our operating, as well as dealing with any capital that is procured to deliver before March 6th of 2027. So we could have 1 to 2 tandems that land.
Yeah.
Depending where they land, we can also use the timing of the tax levy as a cash flow in, and then use the maturing GIC next year on March 27th date, March 6th, 27th date as the lever up. So maybe when we're doing the renewal next year, it's not 7 mil, might be
Yes.
like 6.1, 5.5. We reassess what our cash flow needs are for that next 12-month cycle, as well as we can see where the current yield curve is on a 2-year, 1-year, 3-year, as well. So if we have any pending capital grants that require cash for immediate shovel-ready need. There is kind of a sense in the municipal community that depending post-Kuzma, what will the next federal and provincial budget look like? Will it be more infrastructure based? If that's the case, then
Yeah.
there could be a requirement when that comes up for maturity that we're not doing 7, might even be 5
Or less.
or less. It will be a minimum of 4 because over 4.5 of our reserves is considered restricted.
Yes.
So they're not going to be spent tomorrow.
No, we don't anticipate example, the secondary line. It'll be at best a late 27 engagement.
But the secondary line doesn't require any of our existing
Not yet.
reserves.
Not yet. You're right, but
It's not a cash reserve off our balance sheet.
not off our balance sheet, but we still are going to have to come up with some way to finance it.
We'll have to probably provide lending credit
Yes.
ability to the board.
So anyway, you understand my concerns. As long as you don't have cash flow problems or foresee any.
No.
I think it's a good investment strategy trying to get it in the marketplace.
And the discussion with other department heads, the only outlier would be any drainage.
Hmm.
And the drainage superintendent has not identified any drains that we would have to upfront construct and then later bill out the benefiting landowners. There's nothing in the prescribed 12 months that would cause a huge amount of cash.
It'll be that time before we have anything on the little Jerry anyway. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Any additional comments or questions from members of council? All right, seeing none, then report TR 1126 regarding short-term investment strategies be received for information, and that staff be directed to purchase a 1-year GIC from the Royal Bank of Canada for all investment accounts, including those of the Carlton and Stratfordville Cemetery boards. Moved by Councillor Emerson. Seconded by Councillor Froese. All in favor? That is carried, and thank you very much, Torrin.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council.
Item B, report CAO 1026, Thomas Thayer, CAO regarding site plan agreement, Desjardins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is brought to council under delegated authority for site plan control. We received an application last year from Lucian and Connie Desjardins regarding a site plan agreement for their property on Glen Erie Line near Port Burwell. This requirement came up because of an approved official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, which were also in 2025. The agreement was executed by all parties on February the 23rd, as attached to this report. The intent was to identify the location of a large-scale supplementary farm dwelling on the property, which has been done. Staff comments have been included in the site plan agreement. As the CAO is delegated authority for site plan control at this time, this information is provided for information only, with a recommendation to receive. So we'll leave it with you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any questions regarding this site plan agreement? Okay. Motion that report CAO 1026 regarding site plan agreement, Lucian and Connie Elizabeth Desjardins at 56149 Glen Erie Line, Port Burwell. Application number SPA 0825 be received for information. Mover and seconder, please. See Councillor Froese move, Deputy Mayor Weisler second. All in favor? That's carried. Brings us to the other business. Let us, wow, that's a long.
Yep. And then reminder that because we are moving part of the exceptions for item B, it might be best that I read out this this motion, Mr. Mayor.
I would welcome that.
So we will be entering into a closed session to address 4 items. So the motion would read that council do now rise and enter into an in-camera session at 8:16 p.m. to discuss confidential item regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, license agreement. Confidential item, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Lighthouse. Confidential item, labor relations, employee negotiations, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Recruitment. Confidential item, personal matters about an identifiable individual, CAO performance evaluation.
Can I have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Emerson will move, Counselor Froese will second. All in favor? We are carried. We are now moving into in camera and we'll take a short break.